there. Toure, how'd you get your degree from Emory, which is, by the way, in the state of Georgia in the Deep South? How'd that happen? How did Barack Obama become
on MSNBC, for Christ's sakes?
How did Barack Obama become president of the United States with his degree from Harvard, which, by the way, I didn't get? And, by the way, that he didn't have to pay for. You know how come he didn't have to pay for it? Because
he was a minority.
He was a minority. That's racial inequality. But you don't want to talk about that. How about the violence? How about the violence in the black and Latino communities? Or better yet, in the black community. How about that violence that is where there are 10 times more murders committed by young black males than there are amongst young white males and white Hispanics combined. Notice I threw another minority in there with us white folks.
Yeah, those white Hispanics are a real minority.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Al, to stop some of that? You know, you keep talking about all the, I hear them talking about, and the president making his speech saying, they're getting in the elevator, and there's a white woman clutching her purse because a black man got on the elevator.
No, if I got on an elevator with Obama, I'd put my hand on my wallet too, because he wants to dip into it.
Well,
every time you turn around, he's wanting to tax something.
Forget the fact that most of the crimes committed by that you see committed by them young men, be they black, white, Hispanic, whatever, they're committed by those wearing them hoodies, or the bandanas on their face and all that. That's been going around for a long time. People have been trying to hide their face when they were up to no good ever since they figured out how to commit crime. Even the cowboys used to do that. I mean, come on. You want to talk about how unfair it is? Well, let's talk about the unfairness then. Let's talk about elevating one race over another. Even with the best of intentions, Al, that's still racism. And it's racism perpetuated by you.
And no matter how you slice it, it's wrong. Two wrongs do not make a right.
Or how about Ivy League professor Michael Eric Dyson? Oh, you're going to love his comments on race.
We have to often tell people who get defensive when we talk about race as an analogy. Let's make an analogy to terrorism. So, you know how you felt on 9/11? Yeah, that's how we feel when it comes to race. So now we get more proximate to the truth of what race is in this country. As for Eric Holder, look, the reality is you got to act now. The president, you won the second term. You're in office. You are ensconced. Do something courageous, bold, and helpful, not only to African American people, but to America. Because lest we do this, white Americans and others will feel that this was a justifiable verdict. This is how things happen. Not until and unless the number of white kids died that approximate the numbers of black and other kids who die will America see it's beyond logic, it's about rationality, it's about let's get something done. I think the Attorney General will look at this, and I think it's time for him to act.
I want to hear that part one more time. What was that, Eric?
The number of white kids died that approximate the numbers of black and other kids who die will America see it's beyond logic, it's about rationality, it's about let's get something done.
So in Michael Eric Dyson's mind, an Ivy League black professor who specializes in black studies, the only way we're ever going to get any kind of real a meaningful conversation started in this country is when more white kids die.
That's really helpful right there.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That's really helpful. That's moving the country forward, that is.
You know how you feel about 9/11? And he's talking about us white folks. You know how you feel about 9/11? That's how we feel about race. What? What does that even mean?
And how come
he
doesn't feel that bad about 9/11?
You're equating a terrorist attack with race relations in this country. You genuinely feel that race relations are so bad in this country that they have reached terroristic proportions? Excuse me, when was the last time anybody sicked the dogs on a bunch of black folks for protesting? You know, me and Tina was watching a video this morning down in Houston, Texas, where the new Black Panther Party was trying to have one of their big speeches and one of their big marches. And a whole bunch of bikers had lined the streets. And every time they'd try to talk, the bikers would go, wum, 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 to drown them out. But you know what's funny? They got to walk up and down them streets. They got to scream their vile hatred to the top of their lungs. And you know how many of those new Black Panther Party people got hurt? None. You know how many of them were assaulted? None.
How many of them got the dog sicked on them?
You know what was funny? It was the police standing in between them and the bikers. White policemen standing between them and the bikers. Oh, yeah. Yeah, what we need in this country is a lot more white people to die. We need a lot more white kids to die. He actually, earlier in that little thing, I didn't exactly get that in there, but he had made the comment about how, the cameras are going to be there in Newtown when a bunch of white kids get killed. Well, hey, man, we've been trying to get cameras into Chicago to report the number of black kids getting killed all the time. But you don't let us in there. You won't let the media talk about it. Or you've got them so afraid to talk about it that they won't.
Or how about this? Why isn't he talking about it in some other way that's not divisive? Why isn't he talking about the violence? Why isn't he sitting in Chicago right now?
Or like Bill
O'Reilly,
and
telling these kids to get out of the gangs. Quit killing each other.
Or like Bill O'Reilly said, why isn't the president even putting out any public service ads on these things? Why isn't the Attorney General or Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson, why aren't they talking to these people about just making baby after baby after baby out of wedlock? Why don't they address these people that are having babies for a blasted check? When are they going to start addressing Louis Farrakhan? You know, walking up and down the streets of Chicago with gang members and encouraging them to be in gangs and to join, and for those gangs to join his gang. Why aren't they speaking out about that? When you got people like Louis Farrakhan screaming death to white people, why aren't they saying anything about that? Why didn't Eric Holder address the new Black Panther Party when there was their leader standing out in front of a polling station with a bat in his hand threatening an elderly white woman? Why didn't he address that in some other way besides let's drop the case? Why doesn't he want to have a meaningful conversation about race in this country, about how come he put out a memo to the fact that no voter discrimination cases against white people would be seen by the Department of Justice?
I know why.
Why?
Because our president's a racist.
Bingo was his name-o. You people want to have an honest conversation about race in this country. All of my Facebook friends out there that have been saying we need to talk about race in this country. We need to talk about how unfair it is in this country. Well, here we go, folks. I just spent the better part of an hour telling you why it ain't fair. You want to know why there's so much anger in this country? There's so much anger in this country because the civil rights movement that a whole bunch of white people and black people both marched together in is now being used as toilet paper by the civil rights industry and race baiters in this country. That's why there's anger. I read a poll today, a Gallup poll, that even showed that animosity about other races in this country has increased since Obama has become president of the United States. How did that happen? Is that just an accident, Mr. President? Or is that just something the right wing has come up with? Gallup ain't a right wing poll.
Well, look, man, we've already gone over.
We did.
And we could actually beat this horse for another hour if we chose.
But we ain't going to do it.
We're not going to do it.
Instead,
we're not going to beat everybody up.
Nope.
And next show, we're probably not going to talk about this. But this is the conversation. It's not the conversation that Eric Holder wants us to have. It's not the conversation that Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or Barack Obama or Michelle Obama or Huma Abedin or Hillary Clinton. This is not the conversation that they really wanted. But this is the conversation on race. This is the honest discussion of race in this country. Not what Al Sharpton tells you it is. It's not what anybody on MSNBC tells you that it is. The honest conversation on race is the one that Bill O'Reilly started.
And you know, we probably wouldn't have had to have this conversation this evening if maybe perhaps some of our more mainstream brothers and sisters in the media would want to talk about something else. You know, Casey and I have tried so hard this week to find other newsworthy items to talk about
that don't involve a wiener.
Yeah,
because that's another one that we just ain't going there.
No. But unfortunately,
it's what's consuming the bandwidth here. And I don't mean the literal bandwidth on the internet, but it's consuming the bandwidth in the media, the mainstream media, in the print, and on network news. And, frankly, all over the blogosphere, too.
Even on our local radio shows here in Anniston, Alabama. Turned on the radio this morning. We got a radio station here in Anniston called WDNG, who lives to stoke the racist fire. They allow people to call. I actually heard with my own ears this morning a man call into that station and say, I ain't a racist. I think they might be quite a few decent white people out there.
Oh, that was sweet.
Yeah. And that's the race conversation that they want to have. We've got our own little racist organizations right here. You got them all over the place. It's hard to find the stuff about Benghazi, Fast and Furious. It's hard to find IRS, NSA, particularly when all of the headlines involve race and how wrong white America is. Enjoy your white privilege, folks. Enjoy it. I don't know where it is or what it is, but apparently we got it, so we're going to enjoy it. Don't forget, take a look at our sponsors page. I actually had a guy today ask me to give him a pitch on the V2 SIGs, man. It was awesome. I got to refer him to our website and everything and tell him to go look. Gave him the big pitch. It's another smoker he's after seeing me and Tina out in a public setting and us using ours and telling everybody about it. I think it's starting to work. More and more people are starting to say it's time to put these things down. You guys got a suitable alternative? We sure do. Check our website. Don't want to forget to mention Bacon Candy. It's Bacon Candy. BaconFreak.com. Why would I mention that, Case?
Because bacon is meat candy.
That's right. And LifeLock.com. Man, don't forget them. I seen a thing today where these guys, 4 people have been indicted for stealing over 160 million credit and debit card numbers and selling them. The amount of money involved here is well over $300 million that they found so far. Some of them folks should have had LifeLock, don't you think?
If it had LifeLock, it would have put the brakes on it.
Well, don't forget myfoodstorage.com.